41% of all code committed globally is now generated by artificial intelligence. GitHub Copilot has 20 million users and is deployed across 90% of the Fortune 100. Cursor AI hit $2 billion in annualized revenue in early 2026, doubling in 60 days. A solo founder using AI built an entire SaaS platform, reached $3.5 million in recurring revenue, and sold it to Wix for $80 million. He never hired a single engineer. Meanwhile, junior developer employment has collapsed by 20% since 2022. Front-end engineering job postings fell 10% in 2025. A coding framework company called Tailwind Labs fired 75% of its engineering team in a single day because AI tools had destroyed the traffic model their entire business depended on. So if AI writes the code, who gets hired? The answer is not what most people expect, and it's reshaping the entire technology workforce right now. This is the story of the Great Bifurcation, the split between the engineers who are being eliminated and the ones commanding the highest salaries in the history of the profession. The machines that write the code. The global AI code tools market was $4.86 billion in 2023. It's projected to reach $26 billion by 2030. 84% of developers now use or plan to use AI coding tools, and 51% use them daily. GitHub Copilot generates an average of 46% of all code written in repositories where it's enabled, climbing to 61% for verbose languages like Java. Cursor AI services over 1 million daily active users from a team of roughly 150 people, $13.3 million in revenue per employee, 8 times Meta's efficiency. Amazon Q Developer handles security scanning and infrastructure as code for enterprise AWS teams. Google's Gemini Code Assist operates with a 1 million token context window across the entire GCP ecosystem. But here's where the narrative fractures. GitHub claims developers complete tasks 55% faster with Copilot. An independent randomized trial by Meteor told a completely different story. 16 experienced open-source contributors were tested on 246 tasks in codebases they had worked on for years. Using AI actually increased task completion time by 19%, directly contradicting the developer's own prediction that it would save them 24%. An Anthropic trial found that developers using AI to generate code from scratch scored 17% lower on follow-up comprehension tests. The explanation is straightforward. AI excels at scaffolding, boilerplate, and isolated tasks. On complex legacy systems with deep interdependencies, it generates code that violates implicit architectural intent, creating more debugging work than it saves. AI co-authored pull requests show 1.7 times more issues than human-only PRS. The tool is extraordinary at execution. It is blind to strategy. In 2026, AI cannot reliably make system architecture decisions, navigate complex business logic that exists outside the codebase, regulatory compliance rules, idiosyncratic market behavior, or manage legacy migrations where decades of technical debt exceed the context window. Modern tools can traverse entire codebases, execute multi-file refactoring, write unit tests, and debug terminal errors autonomously. But they cannot decide what to build or why. That distinction is the fault line that now separates the engineers who are thriving from the ones who are drowning. Who's getting eliminated? A Harvard study tracking 62 million workers found that companies adopting generative AI cut junior developer hiring by 9 to 10% within 6 quarters. Broader data shows junior developer employment has dropped nearly 20% since 2022. The reason is mechanical. AI now handles the scaffolding, boilerplate, and basic bug-fixing tasks that historically served as the training ground for entry-level engineers. Companies are choosing to augment mid-level and senior developers rather than incur the cost of training new ones. Front-end engineering postings declined nearly 10% in 2025. Mobile roles dropped 5.7%. Manual QA is shrinking as automated AI test generation replaces entire pipelines. The bottom of the engineering pyramid is being hollowed out. Shopify has instituted an AI impossibility proof policy. Hiring managers must prove that an AI agent cannot perform a task before any new human engineer is approved. Klarna cut its workforce from 5,500 to roughly 3,400, explicitly using AI as the lever. Tailwind Labs released 75% of its engineering team after AI tools cannibalized the search traffic that sustained their business model. Who's getting hired? Software engineering job postings are up 11% year over year. LinkedIn reported over 600,000 new AI-enabled data center and infrastructure jobs created globally in 2025. The Bureau of Labor Statistics projects 15% growth for software developers through 2034, 317,700 average annual openings. The profession is not shrinking. It is splitting. AI software engineer roles are growing 26%. Machine learning engineers command $162,000 to $350,000. The forward-deployed engineer, a role that barely existed 3 years ago, averages $238,000 in total compensation, with staff-level positions at Palantir clearing $630,000. LELM fine-tuning specialists earn a 25 to 40% premium over general ML engineers. AI code reviewers, engineers who verify the output of AI rather than writing code themselves, are becoming a distinct profession. The team structure itself has transformed. The traditional engineering pyramid, 60% juniors, 30% mid-level, 10% senior, has flipped into a diamond. AI handles the broad base of execution. The bulk of human capital now concentrates in the middle and upper tiers: AI reviewers, integration specialists, and senior architects who dictate the strategic direction of automated systems. The academic world has noticed. Carnegie Mellon introduced a course where students are explicitly forbidden from writing code. They must dictate architecture to an LLM, review the output, and guide the AI to fix incorrect logic. Stanford and MIT have mandated AI literacy courses. Coding boot camps have abandoned basic HTML and web development tracks in favor of Python, MLOps, AI orchestration, and cybersecurity. The modern engineer is hired not for the ability to type syntax, but for architectural judgment and verification skills. The money. The salary divergence is staggering. A standard software engineer in the US averages $130,000 in total pay. Attach AI to that title, and the premium is immediate: 21% at baseline, 43% for developers with multiple AI competencies. Dedicated AI engineers average $211,000 in base salary, with total compensation pushing past $250,000. At the Frontier AI Labs, compensation has detached from the rest of the industry entirely. The median total compensation for a software engineer at OpenAI is $1.37 million. An L5 engineer earns $1.06 million. At Anthropic, average total compensation sits at roughly $495,000, with top earners clearing $882,000. By comparison, an L4 at Google averages $283,000, and an E4 at Meta averages $313,000. The talent war for engineers who can build agentic systems has created an isolated hypercompensation ecosystem. The architects of the AI boom are strikingly direct about what this means. Jensen Huang told engineers to stop coding, arguing that natural language is the new programming language. Satya Nadella acknowledged that 20 to 30% of code in some Microsoft repositories is now fully AI-generated. Dario Amodei suggested AI could eliminate up to 50% of entry-level white-collar jobs. Sam Altman warned that entire classes of jobs may disappear. The people building these tools are not hedging. They're telling you what's coming. Vibe coding and the solo founder. The barrier to building software has reached zero. The phenomenon of vibe coding, named Collins Dictionary's Word of the Year for 2025, means building applications by describing what you want in plain English and letting AI generate the structure, logic, database, and interface. Platforms like Base44, Lovable, and Bolt are empowering non-technical founders to ship production-ready applications without hiring a single developer. A solo founder built Base44, reached $3.5 million in ARR, and sold it to Wix for $80 million in 6 months. Users on anything.com have shipped habit trackers and CPR training courses to the App Store without writing a line of code. A 2-person team hit $1 million in ARR and described the AI leverage as genuine, but warned that the loneliness is intense. AI handles execution, but humans still handle every judgment call. This is not a hypothetical future. It's happening right now, and it forces professional engineers to abandon CRUD applications and move toward deep back-end infrastructure, security, and complex algorithmic design. The work AI cannot do. The Jevons paradox and the coming debt crisis. There is a 160-year-old economic principle that explains why software engineers will not disappear. The Jevons paradox states that making a resource cheaper and more efficient to produce actually increases total demand for it. As AI drives the marginal cost of writing code towards zero, the global demand for custom software is exploding. Everyone is building: non-technical founders, legacy enterprises, government agencies. Every one of those projects creates downstream demand for real engineers to take prototype MVPs and make them secure, scalable, and production-ready. But there's a catch. Gartner projects a 2,500% increase in AI-related software defects by 2028, primarily from vibe-coded applications built by non-technical users. The explosion of AI-generated code debt will require an army of skilled human engineers to secure, untangle, and maintain these fragile systems. The World Economic Forum projects 92 million roles displaced globally by 2030, but 170 million new ones created, a net positive of 78 million jobs. Forrester warns that AI will automate 6% of U.S. jobs by 2030, but augment 20%, demanding massive upskilling rather than wholesale replacement. The same force that's eliminating junior coding jobs is simultaneously creating massive demand for the engineers who clean up after the machines. The profession is not dying. It is ascending in complexity. The developers who market themselves as code writers will face wage compression and displacement. The developers who become AI orchestrators, architectural reviewers, and system strategists will command compensation that has never been higher in the history of the industry. The future belongs not to the fastest typist, but to the sharpest strategic editor.